computer setup. Thank you guys so much for coming to this panel. It's late. I know everyone's pretty much done with the convention. I think everyone's basically packed up now, so thank you for being here, sticking around. I'm Kelsey, you probably know that. This is Cody, he is the co-owner of Pink Guerrilla Games. We own a game store in Seattle, Washington. You probably know that too. And today we're just going to talk a little bit about, we want to do some Q&A and just general questions, but the panel I did last year went over really well about owning a retro game store. We had lots of good questions and stuff, so we figured two heads are better than one on this. Cody has some different ideas than I do, so we're happy to answer some questions. And once we get this computer rolling, we actually do have some stuff prepared. It's not quite as thorough, I guess, as it was last year, but that's okay. So we'll start with some questions, which is kind of a weird way to do it, but we don't have our stuff ready yet. And
if you ask a question, you can do it.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
Do you repair consoles at your store?
Oh, constantly, all day, every day. It used to be me working on it non-stop, but it just got to be too much, so we hired a repair guy, and he works as much as he can full time. So, yeah, it's very useful. It's just turning trash into treasure, really.
Yeah, we buy broken consoles at conventions like this and stuff as well, just because you can get a broken console a heck of a lot cheaper than getting a working one. So, and feel free to come up with a ask a question.
What's the most unbelievable thing that's come into your stores?
Unbelievable. Maybe we somewhat recently had someone trade in an almost complete NES set. He had a complete NES set, but he decided to sell little Samson, Dinosaur Peak, the really, really good top ones. He sold all of those to local collectors, so he could get, almost exactly what it was worth for it, right? But he sold the rest of it to us, everything other than, I think, 10 games.
Yeah.
And it took us a solid week to quote.
And a week straight of cleaning games.
Luckily it was mostly clean. But
yeah, it was probably 10 total that didn't work, out of however many.
So normally we test things before we pay for them. This was a case where we just simply could not. It would have taken way too long. It wasn't fair to him for us to clean, test, make every individual listing. So at the end of the day, we were like, okay, we tested all the expensive ones. We're going to assume that most of these are going to work. And yeah, sure enough, only a couple of them did.
So how do you guys price your specific games? Is it just for your northwestern region, or do you try to find prices that are as a whole on the same tier as those?
Yeah, so definitely there's an overall market value, but there's also by region a big factor. So and this is kind of a dumb little example of that, but something like King Grippy in Seattle sells great. But so we can sell it for a little bit more because there's more demand for it there, as opposed to the rest of the country. It's a throwaway name, right? Or a Madden game with a Seahawk on the cover or something. But yeah, it's kind of history of what's come into the store, how quickly it goes, and it's just we have all computer statistics that show stuff like that, but it's easier to just think oh, I know this game sells fast in this area.
Yeah, so in general, we're never going to be pricing anything severely off of what the market value is. We're simply looking at what other people are paying for it, and so if it's way off, we're not going to charge more than what people are realistically paying for it. So you may have a little bit of variability in between, but that's true of everywhere. You'll go to game stores down here, and you'll see that they might have a couple games, for instance, their Ken Griffey Jr. games might be a little bit cheaper than ours, but we may have other games that are much cheaper than what they have. It's really, it has to do with the overall market, but there is a little bit of regional stuff in there as well.
Yeah. In terms of your inventory, is pretty much everything that you have, what you're selling, what people bring to you now? Or is it some sort of combination where you have to go out and find stuff to bring into your store to sell?
Now it seems like it's nearly half and half. We don't specifically go out garage sailing or whatever. It's not Craigslist or anything. We don't really have time, but we're able to coordinate with other video game store owners and look for people who maybe have excess inventory, and then they'll sell kind of at a wholesale price, and we can all trade inventory to keep each other at a good level.
Was it different when you first started out, when you first opened your stores? And then,
Yeah, but that was one of the biggest, I mean, that's one of the things we've done to improve is we've started buying a lot, going out of our way to buy things more because that wasn't the norm when we took over. But we were constantly hurting for games like, Mario games and Pokemon games and that sort of thing. So at conventions and just through trading with other people, other collectors, other game store owners, we go out of our way to be able to keep some of the more popular stuff in stock. It's still not foolproof. It's impossible to keep everything that everyone wants in all the time, but we try.
So how do you guys stay competitive in a market that has many other main retailers?
Oh, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit here, but our biggest thing is just that we're very different than everyone else. We try to find ways to stand out. So obviously we carry plenty of retro games, but we also carry a bunch of import games, and we carry import merchandise. As far as I know, the only game store in Seattle that's carrying like imported plushies. We have a lot of really cool ones that are from like the Crane game machines in Japan. So other than coming to our store and buying it, you would have to go to a Crane game machine in Japan and try to win it. We've been really lucky and fortunate to have great distributors who we can buy from the same catalogs that some of these arcade dealers in Japan are buying from. So yeah, we have a lot of just kind of differentiation that makes us stand out. Of course, our prices are fair and we make sure everything is clean and tested. We replace batteries. There's all kinds of ways we kind of give ourselves the edge. But I would say in general, people come to us because we have a really good selection of imports and import merchandise.
Okay, so my question is, what's it like working with your significant other? I know it's kind of, I know I almost didn't want to ask because it's kind of personal, but like we run a website together, but we have our separate jobs during the day. So like, what's that like?
Well, it's great in a lot of ways, and it's not great in other ways. And I think it works out really well overall because we honestly just have really different philosophies for a lot of things. We agree on kind of the core of things, but I tend to be a little bit less risky and make less risky decisions. I'm a little bit more conservative. I don't want to start a project unless we can fund it 9 times over. Whereas Cody's like, we can do this right now, so let's do it. And I'll wait. So there are, I don't know. I want to hear you weigh in on this. I feel like there's some tension sometimes, but in general, we sort of respect that we have different ideas about something. We can usually come to a pretty good.
Yeah, it's weird having such different opinions that get you to argue more, and that might be a problem, like outside of work or something. But surprisingly, it's not. I joke about this a lot. Our biggest argument ever is always about correct change when we go to conventions. She goes,
I want to
insane
have.
with it.
Well,
She's
again,
like,
I'm conservative about it, so I want to make sure that there's no way in hell that we're not going to have enough change for people. I don't want to be rounding up or rounding down or whatever. I want to make sure we have enough change. And
But yeah, either way.
but
Yeah.
Cody says it's heavy, so. I mean, admittedly, he's the one who has to carry it, so.
But yeah, I think it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
When, like, kind of a 2-question thing, or actually just a 1 question. When did you realize that you wanted to make a game store, like become and run a game store? Do that?
To be perfectly honest, it was never my intention. And that might surprise some of you guys, but my intention was to go do marketing in the video game industry or publicist work, and I've done some of that. But in general, yeah, this was not what I intended to do. I went to college for business and communications, and I thought I was going to do like PR and marketing. And then we had this opportunity. He and I, if you don't know the story, he and I had been working as managers at this game store for 6 years, 5 years, something along those lines. So we've been with the company for a fairly long time, but the company is older than us, or older than we've been there. So when we were sort of given the opportunity to take it over, the former owner no longer really wanted to run it. He hadn't really been maintaining it very well. And he said, I'm either going to shut this down or I'm going to sell it to someone who actually cares. And, you guys seem to really care. You know, you're here late. You're really concerned about the image of the company. So when that opportunity came around, I was like, you know what, being my own boss would be pretty cool. And I'm already pretty familiar with how all of this works. The only difference now is it's my money involved instead of someone else's, and I can make all of those decisions. So it ended up working out a lot better than I thought it would be, because it was, explaining to my parents and stuff like, hey, I'm going to a video game store now. They're like, didn't you just go to college? Aren't you trying to do something else? But what's your answer to that question? Because you probably wanted to own
My
one
entire
on
life, I wanted to, run my own business. Not necessarily a video game store, but anything. I've never wanted to work for anyone else. So when that opportunity presented itself, I thought it was amazing. I've always, since 16 years old, been saving up for retirement or to do something like this. So I had all my life savings totally ready for an opportunity like this to jump in front of me, and it did, and I was really lucky. We didn't have to do the horrible work of getting it off the ground to start the first couple of years.
and amassing the inventory.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hardest part, really.
Yeah, the worst we had to do was kind of fix a little bit of reputation that was going downhill. So I think we got it, but yeah, I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, we're lucky that we're also very, very passionate about video games and about retro video games and stuff. I think it hadn't really, for me at least, it hadn't occurred to me to own my own game store. I just considered it a really fun place to work that allowed me to be around something I'm passionate about until I got a quote-unquote adult job, but this is my adult job now.
Considering the location of your store on the app, how often do you get weirdos wandering in? And do you have any good stories with that?
So I'm gonna let Cody take over this one, but just for context, because these people probably don't know the app. The place that our University District store is located is right next to the University of Washington, and it's on this kind of strip of stores that can be a little sketchy sometimes. It's not so bad. It's just we're downtown, right? We're in a big city, and so sometimes there's some sketchy stuff. And Seattle's a very temperate climate, so you have a lot of people who are very comfortable living outside. I'll put it that way. You can answer the fun story part, though.
One of the first times I think Kelsey was having a real hard time at the store working by herself. One of the first days she was working by herself, I just happened to come in because I lived in the area. I was going to the school nearby. And there was a guy in there acting very, very weird. Kelsey looked kind of I don't know. I'm sure you would have handled it, but it was one of your first days.
Yeah, I was younger and
So
not
he
as
was
confident.
asking us to sell his golf tees in the store along with our games, I guess. And it ended with him dropping a bottle of absinthe out of his coat, and me having to kick him out and him screaming and everything. I'm like, hey, Kelsey, welcome to the job. It happens sometimes, but
I've been called some slurs before. People have spit on our floor. I mean, this is not common things, but it has happened. So you gotta be prepared for that. Honestly, one of the things we have to look for when we're hiring someone is you can't let yourself get walked over. You have to be able to hold your ground a little bit.
yeah, it's really unfortunate we had a newer employee semi-recently, and it's really awful that has to be a part of the job, but it's just a part of the area. And we had an incident, and when the guy kind of confronted him, the employee was talking to the customer, the employee kind of started breaking down crying. It was really intense for him. So you got to train for that. You got to kind of have an instinct for that to be able to handle conflict like that.
Yeah. Are we?
It's not that bad, though, I promise.
It's not crazy.
No, it keeps freezing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll just keep taking questions.
How did you come up with the name Pink Guerrilla? I don't know.
Well, we didn't.
Cool's name.
we did. The former owner had this name, and if you see our pins,
He didn't have that name, actually.
What?
He didn't have that name.
Well, he came up with the second. He still came up with it. Okay. So the original name of the store back in 2005 was Pink Godzilla. This is our original logo. And due to him starting to sell merchandise overseas, they were basically, I mean, there was no lawsuit or anything, but Toho, who owns the Godzilla trademark, was kind of like, you probably shouldn't do that. We're like, okay, we'll just change our name before this becomes anything, right? So that was a long time ago. I mean, that was still like 2009. So we've been Pink Guerrilla since, I think, is it 2008 or 2009, something like that, for a long time. So really it was just what can we change it to that's not too different? But if you're wondering why it was Pink Godzilla in the first place, or Pink anything, right? Our store is heavily influenced by Japanese culture, and in Japan, pretty much everything has a cute mascot. Like every grocery store, every toilet paper brand, it's like cereal mascots, right? But like for everything, for every single thing has a cereal mascot. So that's where it came from. I don't know why specifically Pink or why specifically Godzilla, but cute mascot. That was the real point. But we love it. So.
Has anyone read or heard of the book Purple Cow? It's a marketing book. Thank you. All right. Talking about standing out, and I think that was a huge intention of his originally, was to not name the store something that's obvious, which is going to obviously hurt you right away when no one knows who you are. But once people start catching on, they get in the store and they have a good experience, they're going to remember that weird thing, like Pink Guerrilla. It's very odd.
Yeah, I know some of you were at my panel last year. That was something I really hammered home, and I feel guilty saying this because there are always a bunch of game store owners and stuff in the audience who are going to be like, hey, that's my store. But there's so many game stores that are some combination of trade, game and play, trade, game, like all of these kind of keywords, which totally makes sense. It immediately communicates what it is you do, but it's hard to differentiate sometimes. For instance, you guys have a vintage stock and a V stock. I assumed those were the same thing. Come on. So that's the kind of thing where it's like, you want to make sure you're different enough from your immediately surrounding competition so that they don't confuse you. Like, so that they don't think that they're going into a V stock when they're going to a vintage stock, or vice versa. Because that can work for or against you. I mean, if your competition's better than you, maybe that works for you. But if you're better than your competition and your competition has a very similar name to you, people are going to get you guys confused. So no one's ever going to be similar to Pink Guerrilla. Hopefully.
So y'all have been doing this for a while. I'm assuming you have like hot spots in the year or certain events that have happened. Like I could assume when the NES Classic and SNES Classic did that boom in that sort of product or anything like that. Were there any other events that happened in recent times that helped with retro gaming?
Yeah, the most recent one I can think of is when Pokemon Go came out. We absolutely could not keep Pokemon games in stock for the life of us, and most game stores were marking them up like crazy, and they were still selling. We felt a little too guilty about doing that because we knew it was going to go back down. But it was really tough to keep Pokemon games in stock for a good 4 or 5 months. And
the price overall did move up and really never fell. It moved up from its lower point before Go. It's just always stayed up a little bit since.
Yeah, it settled back down, but it's still a little bit higher than it was before. So there have been some big pushes like that. As for throughout the year, I mean, we do conventions. The conventions do really well, and then there's certain events like in our international district, they have some night market events and Dragon Fest. These street fairs that celebrate Asian culture, and because we're right in the center of it, that'll tend to help us out a lot.
And speaking of big events like that, like you were mentioning, another one that's a little bit older, but Smash Brothers for Wii U, when that came out, all of a sudden GameCube controllers have always been pretty popular since the competitive Melee scene, but as soon as that came out, it was, again, a spike along with the Wii U controller adapters. And when you've done this long enough to get used to it and see trends like this, you got to kind of look forward to the future. So, Nintendo already said GameCube controllers are going to work with the Switch, so we're stocking up. We literally have 200 of them.
We have
getting ready for
3 bins full of GameCube controllers right now because we anticipate an enormous spike when that game comes out.
Yeah, so.
Would you guys have any advice for someone who was thinking opening a retro game store, and how much stock you should have, how to acquire the stock, or someone large or other?
Well, what I would recommend is someone who you didn't have to start it, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But to be perfectly honest, from what I've found, the best way to start is to start as like a flea market or temporary booth, because that's a good way for people to see you first. You can start amassing stock by buying from other people. You can advertise that you're buying games there, and it sort of is like, it's a hyper cheap way to start getting your feet wet a little bit, because getting a retail space and the lighting and the business permit, all these things that go into, I mean, we have so many dumb bills that are like, you're paying for the awning space above your unit in addition to the rent you're paying. Just all these little things that add up, right? So that's a good way to avoid 90% of that while still building what you have and kind of get your face out there. I don't know if you got a different answer, but
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, what you said is definitely right. We know a guy, semi-local, Andy Clark, who did Super Smash games in Tacoma. That's how he started out. And as a matter of fact, he used to sell stuff to us in mass at the store, like back when I originally started. I think he must have finally got enough money and inventory to open a shop. So I think I mentioned this earlier. We're in like a Facebook group full of other video game business owners, and it seems like I don't know, maybe twice or so a year, someone's talking about liquidating their store, and they always seem to have kind of a hard time figuring out what to do. Even if the branding isn't great and it has like a reputation, at least people know the store's there. So it might be a smart idea if you do have the capital to. I don't know how you would approach someone and say, "Hey, are you looking to get out of this?" You know what I mean? But like, if you happen to know, it would be great to also buy the goodwill that the store has. Just the knowledge of its existence is worth so much more than opening yourself.
Even if you completely rebrand, which depending on the reputation of the place, maybe you should, but at least people already expect a game store to be there. And location is like, one of the most integral things. I can't stress how much. We've had other locations that have closed, and it has a lot to do with that location. Not since we took over, but the former owner had other locations, and it's important to find something that is really good and has traffic. Has people going there for other reasons other than your store, because people aren't going to know right away.
Yeah, it's really hard because it's obviously a much bigger risk. Like, we have a store on the app, as you were mentioning, very highly trafficked area, but rent is insane. But that's the risk you gotta pay for.
What retro system do you sell the most out?
Right now,
It's
probably GameCube.
Yeah, it's always Nintendo. It was like when I first started, Nintendo, then Super Nintendo, then 64. Now it's becoming GameCube.
It's sort of a mix between 64 and GameCube, and this is partially due to our location. Like I said, one of our stores is extremely close to a college campus. So think of what your average 20-year-old grew up playing, and that's what they're buying. So right now, that's GameCube. So that's a.
Could be Wii next.
Yeah, it could be Wii next. We don't really know. It's going to start getting weird with the Wii because the Wii sold so well. So I don't know. It's influenced the prices for everything else as people sort of transition into adulthood and have some disposable income to rebuy their childhood. That's when we start to see the prices of the popular games kind of creep up a little bit. So I'm curious if that will happen as well with the Wii, just because it's like one of the best-selling consoles of all time. So I don't know if it's going to have the same price creep. We'll see.
Is it more expensive games or is it more common games?
Just the Marios, the Zeldas, the Pokemons, the things that like your average kid would have grown up with.
You think emulating and burning games on hard drives, things like that, does that have any effect, you think, on your business?
It's got to, but not everyone who's doing that's going to buy the game anyway. I don't know. The worst thing, I think the worst effect it has on the business is like, I don't know, people kind of like, I don't know how to describe this, sorry.
Like customers trying to talk other people out of things.
Yeah, every once in a while you get like a weird person in the store who's like, hey everyone in the store, I could have all this on my computer. Isn't that cool? It's like, why are you here?
So one of the things that we do that some people, I guess, find semi-controversial, is we don't really sell any USB controllers. And it's not because we're like we hate all of you who emulate. It's just that if we sell products to discourage people from coming back, I mean, that's essentially what that is we're selling, a USB Super Nintendo controller. We're saying, this is your only purchase. Now you're going to go play all your emulated Super Nintendo games and you're never coming back. And maybe they were going to do that anyways, but we don't want to seal the deal. We're not going to personally seal the deal.
And also, every once in a while, we get someone who comes in and is like, hey, you sell me like the modded ones out the back or something. I mean, that's illegal, and yeah, we'll never see you again.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. Just make a quick buy. That's silly.
So last year I asked you about online selling, and I think you were sort of like, I don't know what we're going to do with that. I think I see that you started doing that, or
This is a major thing we disagree on, and we've had to make some compromises. I think that because right now our primary focus, and I think probably always our primary focus, is going to be making sure that the people who come into the store on a daily basis, our local customers, or people who are visiting, but people who are coming to the real store, like what they see and want to come back. So there has to be a good amount of cool stuff in stock. We have to always have N64s. We can't run out of things, we can't run out of the popular things, systems, controllers. And when we put that stuff online, we do run out of it because, our prices are fair. And thankfully, we have lots of people who want to support us. But if we put things like Pokemon online, we would run out of copies of Pokemon and people would come in and be disappointed. And it might not encourage them, it might discourage them from coming back. So this is where we sort of disagree, is there is money to be made online, for sure. And what we've sort of compromised on is selling our merchandise, which I've always been cool with, because that's reorderable, right? We can always have merchandise. But the other thing that we sell online, which I'm kind of iffy on, is we sell things that we have like 10 plus copies of. To me, I feel like it's slightly confusing, because it can be. If you go on our website, you will only see a PS2 section, PS3, Xbox 360, the systems that we will have excess of. But we don't have 10 plus copies of anything on the N64. So we don't have an N64 section online, or Super Nintendo or whatever. We just can't keep that amount of stuff in stock. So it's a little confusing. If you go on our website, you're not going to see even close to all of the sections. And what you do see for the PS2 section is not, it's 2% of our PS2 inventory, maybe 3%, So it's
boring games.
Yeah, it's games. Final Fantasy, and but it's things that are pretty common. So we are selling online, and we have had some success with it for sure. I just wish there was a way to communicate better that, hey, this is not even close to everything we have. Please come to the store, and here's why. But there's no way to do that without. I just gave you a novel right there, so you can't really just put a novel online and expect people to read that.
Yeah, it gets hard because people will message us and be like, "Oh, hey, do you sell?" Or we'll get calls. Do you sell GameCube games and not on your website? So, yeah, definitely. That's the first thing you see on the website. It's come to the store. It's more than what you see.
Yeah, but it's still just not quite in your face enough. I feel like there's no way to make that text big and bold enough for everyone to read it.
Like a terms of service.
Yeah.
YouTube or something. But
it's those.
Oh, good point. But what our website is useful for is, like she said, merch, and then also this is kind of a cool thing. We stock all limited run games as they come into the stores, and after about a month, if none of the local customers wanted them, we just throw them up on the website, and they usually sell pretty quick then. But it's a good way to get the limited run games at a fair market value. We don't increase the price at all or anything. It was whatever MSRP was. So it's good for that.
So when people try to sell stuff and they just have a bunch of just old sport games or refit just games that you just find for $1, do you even take those or what do you do with those?
Yeah, so I don't ever want to turn down. I don't want people to think that we don't buy something. So because they might not understand, right? So all they might hear is that we're not buying, and they're going to be like, "Oh, well, I'm not going to come back here then with my Super Nintendo RPGs," right? Because they just saw that we weren't buying. So we'll buy everything. A lot of this job is education, though. So with something like that, I'm gently explaining to them, we have 50 copies of this game.
It never moves. We're selling it for $1. So I'm sorry, but this is going to be a couple cents. And 100% understand if you would rather try your luck elsewhere, but that's the reality of the situation. And most people are pretty understanding of that.
You just like just keep it in the back, or do you just repurpose it for like cases or what?
We don't throw any games away, but we will, for instance, we'll take them to a retro show like this and we'll sell them for absolutely dirt cheap. We'll put some copies on our website, of course, and yeah, I don't know. It does
They
pile up
mostly just kind of
sometimes.
rot in the back. I mean, at least they're organized.
Yeah, sometimes we'll put some of it up on eBay and like we'll literally make like $1 off of 10 minutes of work, so it's not really worth it, but at least we're getting it out there and someone's taking it, you know.
So it's no secret GameStop is in trouble, and I guess it's known that selling new games they don't make much on, which is part of the downfall. So in your stores, I think you were talking about limited run things like that. Can you make a living on just selling new games?
No, we make sometimes only 50 cents on brand new games. So we mostly don't. Right now the only new games we stock some Switch games because we just get asked for them so often. And to be honest, we make like $4 on those. I mean, it's still not good because if the price goes down, we lose money on it. Like if there's a Nintendo Selects or something, then we will start losing money on these. But it's worth it to have happy customers who are finding what they're looking for. So we're never going to stock all of the new games because we'll just lose money that way. We're not really going to have like the Maddens and the less sought after releases, but we'll typically stock a handful of all of the bigger releases. It's absolutely not for monetary reasons though. It's a courtesy.
It's the same with limited run stuff. Like we stock all of it, but it's because we know like our local people want it, and it brings them in the store. They'll get other things, but it's just nice to have. And we always just stick with the Nintendo stuff because Nintendo typically does not discount their products ever. So those are safe bets. But yeah, like you said, Madden, I wouldn't be surprised if next week, Madden comes out in like a couple days, or it just did. I wouldn't be surprised if next week it was like $10 off. It's crazy.
And that goes our entire profit plus $5, so.
What are your thoughts on the official hardware emulation, like the NES or the SNES Classic? Do you think that helps or hurts you?
Definitely, I think it helps a lot. It kind of especially the NES Classic. A lot of people in the business around Nintendo kind of theorized that the only reason that thing exists was to advertise Nintendo's brand. Not that they were really making a lot of money off of selling, 30 games for $60. So that's not a good deal for them. They could sell it on the Switch or whatever. But it reminded everyone that Nintendo exists, and it reminded a lot of people. They came into our store looking for NES Classic. Maybe we don't have them because everyone was sold out when that first happened. But instead, they can go get an NES and a whole bunch of games for it. So that was totally killer.
Plus, not everyone grew up on Mario and the games that are in there. So you have people who were excited. I also really want to play Legendary Wings. I love that game. Just very random stuff that meant a lot to them in their childhood. So yeah, I would say in general that helps. Now, when it's pirated emulation, that's a whole different story. But for official Nintendo products that were well advertised by Nintendo and endorsed by Nintendo, yeah, absolutely.
What's been your biggest struggle since we've taken over Pink Guerrilla, or Pink Guerrilla as it was originally called?
Big struggle.
Oh.
There's been a few. This slideshow really is not happening.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I have a. I'm not gonna pull it up. I'm just gonna whatever off the top of my head. There's a couple things. So one of the biggest things, and this sounds bad, but I don't mean this in a bad way, but part of it's employees. Training someone to be an expert in all of this stuff is a lot of work. And if they end up not working out, we've thrown a ton of money into training them. Because we don't want to turn anyone loose unless they can be correct with the customers. A lot of people come in and, maybe they play retro. Most of them play games, obviously. Or they all play games. Most of them play retro games too. But being able to appraise things and, assess if something's legit or not, if it's authentic. All of these factors are difficult to train, as well as just sort of, all of the other tasks, things like cleaning up and doing things at a time. I mean, it's just difficult to assess that from an interview. What's their work ethic, and are they going to be able to retain all of this information that, he and I have spent 7-8 years building. I mean, I don't blame anyone for not being an expert right away.
Yeah, but it's really hard as like the owner to let them loose, because it's like every day I'm like, are they going to make me look bad? Are they going to screw up this or that? Because it's so easy, not because they're dumb or anything like that. There's just so much to know.
There's so many variables, and people, will get upset because they see, and completely understandably, when you're coming in, you're only seeing your one experience. So it doesn't really matter if we gave the last 100 customers perfect experience. If you come in and you don't have a good experience, you're not coming back, and that's tough for us as owners. That's why we're there all the time. Is we just have a lot of trouble like relinquishing control, because it can get messy. An employee could forget to test something, or they could refuse to do something for a customer, and then we are left picking up the pieces. So
that's why, like, when we're hiring, the number one things we look for, like in an interview, are how friendly they are. Like, if they have previous retail experience, if they can be friendly with everyone, and how long they're going to stick around, because the training process is so incredibly long. If we train someone and then they're gone in like a couple of months, we wasted a ton of money. But a lot of things can be fixed. A lot of mistakes can be fixed by someone being really charismatic and personable and polite with the customer and apologetic if they goof something up, because they will. So having a lot of game knowledge is actually going to be less useful than at least being able to apologize and be nice.
right, and just say, what, I don't know, but let me look that up for you real quick. So that's kind of a downer answer. I mean, there's other things for sure. Things like just any business owner, when you're renting a building, you're going to have issues with it, leaks, holes in the building, like all these things that you have to deal with that you don't want to be dealing with. You just want to be working on what you're working on. You just want to sell games, and you just want to be able to interact with your community, and then all of a sudden you're calling someone to like fix a toilet or patch a hole in a wall, and then that's been the biggest bummer for me, I think, is that I have to spend time fixing stupid, not related things like that. Okay, we'll go you first, and then.
So like whenever like somebody brings in like a full collection, like the Xbox video, like what do? Do you just like bulk pricing or?
No, it's usually when someone brings in stuff like that, most of the time people have the courtesy to tell us that they're doing that. Like, hey, I have like 800 games, so what? And we'll tell them. Usually, I'll get on the phone with them and I'll say it's going to be a couple days. Drop it off, but we want to make sure that we're not just guessing. We want to actually give you a quote. So yeah, but it does take a couple days for big stuff like that.
So what's a day in the life of a video game owner, a video game store owner? When does it start? When does it end? Can you talk to us a little about what the day-to-day operation looks like?
Well, not me. I'll get in like 2 or 3. Stick around until like midnight most days. Sometimes later. There's so much you can do when there's no one else in the store, and I think where we currently are, I mean, this will change based on employees, but where we currently are, we have enough like friendly employees that I can relax and like kind of come in a little bit later. I'm more of a night owl, so I like to chill and knock some of the boring things out in the evening. It looks really bad. Like as an owner, you'll have to do a lot of like, clerical work and like running reports and all this annoying stuff. It's boring, and it looks really bad if you're just behind the computer the entire time when someone comes to your store. That's like a rule we have. Is like if you're behind the computer, you need to be standing up, and you probably should not be next to the computer. Just get away from it. It doesn't look good. So I like to do that like after hours and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's probably more boring than you might guess. There's just a lot of cleaning, testing, tedious things. A lot of cleaning.
Ordering supplies. Some of our day is taken up by like ordering toilet paper for the store. It's certainly not all glamorous, but we do plenty of trade-ins and stuff. So people will bring us stuff, we'll clean it, we'll test it, we'll quote it. We will do some minor repairs. We have a repair guy for the bigger things, but he and I will go like replace some batteries or something like that if we need to. And there's a lot, it starts to build up in the back room, just kind of random, someone brings you a giant bin and there's just a bunch of random cords in it or empty boxes and stuff, things that you're not really necessarily paying much or anything for. You're kind of lumping it all in together because it's just a mess of cords, right? So that sort of thing will add up pretty quick. And so we're always trying to stay late to work on some of that, get some of that out into the store, tested. I don't know. There's a lot of
work than you've ever imagined.
Yeah.
We only have 2 stores, but we have 10 employees, and just to try to keep up with the work, and we still don't. Like, we need to hire more people to keep up with all the stuff that accumulates in the back.
We need a general manager to be able to do more of our clerical work and stuff.
Being such big game fans yourself, how do you deal with like when a really interesting piece comes into the store and you want it for your collection, or when you're out at a convention and you're picking up something and you're like, do I keep it for myself? I know with like the Entertainment Bike, you like used it, then gave it up to the store. So how do you like negotiate those like 2 things that you guys care about?
Cody's nice to me. So what it boils down to. No, for the most part, I don't take things that come through the store. The only time I will is if it's something I really truly think is not going to come in like ever again or for a decade or whatever. The most recent example I have is a customer of ours was trading in like a couple $100 worth of stuff, and in that lot was a $90 WonderSwan game that I was missing. And I really wanted this $90 WonderSwan game because how often is that going to happen? And so I ended up just saying, hey, I'm taking this. We're still making enough of a profit off of it as a whole that I can take this and it's not going to hurt it super bad. But in general, I just can't, because you start to, as much as I love my collection, I love video games, I love the store being successful more. So I know that if I'm taking things that I'm impacting, not only, the $20 profit or whatever we're going to make on whatever it is, but I'm impacting how customers see the store, because if we don't have that cool item in the store just got that much less cool, So I tend to not take a lot of stuff. The Entertainment Bike was a separate thing because that was a live auction, and tension gets a little high at a live auction. But I never intended to keep that thing. It's just too big. Would love to. I like weird stuff like that, but I don't have room.
Does the DS Pupa night Twitch streams actually realize any value or send it back into the business?
Oh, absolutely. So everyone doesn't know, I stream myself daily, at work after hours, and just kind of whatever I'm working on, whatever came into the store, and it just randomly people kind of burst into supporting the store through our website and just order stuff that it seems like they don't even really want. They're just they just want to see me pack it and throw in something bonus and make jokes about it or whatever. So there's that way, but also people have come into the store more from we actually do a podcast as well, and Kelsey does tons of videos. No, Jesus, more from that stuff, but also from the street people come into the store and just say, oh hey, I've heard about this via this. It's kind of like a marketing thing, sort of. But that's not my intention, but it happens. It's cool. Yeah.
Lots of shirt sales from it.
Oh yeah.
So to piggyback on her question, how does it work with your employees? Do they probably don't have first dibs, right? They just kind of
like
everybody else does.
So we give the employees a very generous discount. The idea is that if they're more passionate about this, they're going to do a better job. However, they have to wait 2 weeks for anything. They're never allowed to buy anything, even at full price. Sorry, you got to wait. Customers first. So.
Are there any holy grails that you guys are looking for still? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I've got one. You guys are going to laugh because this is the most ridiculous thing in the whole world. So it's called the Mama Mite WonderSwan. It was made by Tamita, which is a medical device company. They make scales mostly. And they made this WonderSwan. It's a swan crystal, which is the nicest WonderSwan console. And it's a baby blue one. It's only in this packaging. it's got a scale with it, and it's got a program for tracking your pregnancy. So I heard about this, and I thought it was quite literally the most hilarious thing I've ever heard of. So that's my holy grail. They estimate that there were less than 1,000 of them ever sold. I've seen one go up for sale ever. It was in horrible condition. It went for $750. It was like yellowed and just like, it was awful, crusty, and yeah. So I anticipate if I ever find it, I'm going to be spending a lot of money on it. But it's kind of the most, like, you guys know I love to collect weird stuff, and it's super weird, and it's WonderSwan. It's like this perfect, it's the perfect holy grail, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm not a big collector at all, so I don't really have anything. My holy grail would be Skate 4 got made. That would be it.
You have a really cool thing that we won at a charity auction, which is a Skate 3 deck, like a skate deck. That was it was for what, the developers or something. Yeah. They all got it after skating.
Inside jokes.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
That's the kind of Cody really likes skating and skate games. So anything that's
There aren't
related to
really
that.
like holy grails for that, as far as I know.
No. We also have those behemoth skateboards.
Okay.
I guess if you have any advice for somebody if you're on YouTube and everything, like if you were going to make YouTube videos, how like stand out in the current market, like so many people doing it, like if you want to stand out in your views and everything, would you have advice for that?
Well, I didn't start my channel until I was positive that I was going to stand out, and even then, my first 2 videos I don't like at all. I feel like I didn't really hit my stride until the 3rd or 4th one. But yeah, I mean, in my opinion, you need to just become so niche and specific to begin with that if somebody is searching for that thing, you're going to be one of the top results. And that's hard to do because everyone's really done everything, but that's why I do so much obscure stuff. And obviously I'm very interested in it as well, but that was part of my rationale. Like, okay, well, there's not really any videos about the Famicom network system, the Famicom modem. So I will do a video on that because that's, if somebody happens to search for that, I'm going to be like the top result because there's really just no other educational videos about it. It's just kind of like unboxings and that sort of thing. So I don't have great advice other than, what's worked for me, which is just find a super tiny niche and then you can branch out from that for sure. But that's a really good way of discovery is finding something that at least a couple things that you do that no one else really does.
And then Jesus he always gets this question, and the thing he always says is consistency is the most important, which is something you don't do. But I would take his advice too. Consistent. I don't know how to do this.
Well, sort of running out of questions here. I wish we had a little
Sorry,
bit. Yeah. So I mean, what we were going to talk about basically was just some of the things that we do that we think makes us successful, and we can sort of riff off of this a little bit, I think. We talked a lot about standing out, both with your name, but also with your visuals, with your decor. I mean, people don't want to, or they don't remember a game store that just looks like walls of games with nothing else. You gotta have something in there that's gonna draw people back and make them interested, and a good name is a great place to start. We have another place in Seattle called Another Castle, which I think is an excellent name. It both communicates that it's video games, but also is not some combination of game, trade, play, exchange, So stuff like that is gonna really help, or for us it's really helped. We have brightly colored walls. We carry a lot of really interesting merchandise. I know you wanted to talk about something that I think is one of the most important things, which is appealing to everybody. I'll let you take over from here. But
yeah, this is something that I didn't realize we did until way later. But I don't know. I haven't been all over the country's game stores, but from my experience, like most game stores, a lot of guys work there. Ours, we don't specifically try to do this, but it just happens to be that we usually have about half and half men and women who work there. Which has kind of influenced what kind of stuff we carry. So, of course, we have video games, but we also have been fan-inspired stores. So we start carrying these little kind of keychain, like cute things you would see in Japan that are still video game related, maybe I would have never thought to get that because I'm like, I don't want that.
And they're not always video game related. We have just like
Yeah.
cute little, just cute keychains. So one of our most popular sellers right now is a keychain that's bubble tea, but like it's like a real bubble tea replica. Like you can
Actually
liquid in there and like little boba. I don't know what they're called.
That's cool. But, you know, a lot of people do things as couples, right? So you want to make sure both people are excited to go to your store and are going to have a good time there. So if you can have something that maybe appeals to literally everybody, you're going to have a higher chance of people coming to the store. We had, like one of our friends was mentioning, like his girlfriend is excited when they are going to go to the store, but she doesn't play games at all. But she's like, oh, well, I like looking at their stuff. They have cool stuff all the time. So
Yeah. So appealing to, half the people in your group don't want to be there. You're going to leave a lot quicker. You're going to make the experience not fun for the person who does want to be there. I mean, not necessarily, but the idea is that if it just looks like a man cave, you're not going to be able to have nearly as many customers, first of all, because they're probably just not going to bring their wives or their girlfriends or their friends or whoever, people who don't play video games. But yeah, and also if they do come, they're not going to want to stick around. So that's one of the things that I think has helped us a lot, is there's a lot to see, even if you don't play video games, that while it may not be, maybe they're not obsessed with little keychains or whatever, but it at least holds people's interest. The moms who don't play video games, the dads who don't play video games, whatever. It holds their interest enough to not be dragging people out.
yeah, and like when we train our employees on this too, but like if a family's coming in or something, and like maybe some of the parents are a little older or something, like we'll offer them a chair and like chat them up and make sure they're not bored to death while their kid is running around the store and having a good time. Try to make everyone happy, even if they're not buying from you.
I don't know if we want to. I'm sorry, I don't know all these things off the top of my head that we had prepared.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall now. Another one of those kind of appeal to everyone to make sure everyone has a good time, even if it's not necessarily like profitable to you. It will be in the long run. It's all about return customers and happy customers. Another thing we do is we have these like gadget wand machines at the very front of the store, which have like really nice prizes in them. They're just like little Pokemon. We don't really make any money at all. I think we might even lose money on them, but people love coming in and like buying just tons of them. People come up with $10 and just get a roll of quarters and go crazy in there because it's only $1 for like a Pokemon toy. That's like my childhood dream,
Kids love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, in general, I would say we probably break even or make just a tiny bit on it. But yeah, it's a really good, again, it's another thing. Yeah, it's another just thing for the kids to be doing or whatever while dad's looking around or something like that. So.
Do you guys do anything with card games?
We sell cards. We sell brand new cards. We don't do singles, and a big reason for that, there's already so much you have to be an expert in to be able to provide good service and be considered experts, right? Like people come to us, I get emails and stuff all the time. Hey, is this a fake game? Is this a good price on something, et cetera, et cetera. And that means that people trust me as an expert in this, right? So I'm thankful for that. But if I had to start throwing toys or cards or anything like that into the mix, I would not be able to keep up and be an expert on all of them. So that's why we.
It's kind of awkward because there's a lot of crossover, obviously, right? So we're just like, hey, if you want the newest thing, here it is. Yeah. When we mess it up, like we said, we can't be experts in it. So every once in a while, there's a magic thing that's super in demand. I remember some commander deck, someone saying oh, those are going for 150, and I think we have it for 15 or 20.
Yeah.
Whatever MSRP is.
We're not thinking about it. We just our card distributor says this is what the MSRP is. That's what we sell it for, and maybe that loses us money. But also, people appreciate that. Yeah. They're like, okay, well, these guys don't really, specialize in cards, and they can't rip us off.
I have a question from the stream, actually.
Okay.
Are there any consoles that they would not buy games off of customers?
Leapfrog, I guess. And PC. And the only reason for that is that PC games, I just can't guarantee that they're going to work. And our big thing is that we try to guarantee that everything works. We test everything. And PC stuff is so variable. You need very specific machines. Sometimes it's like a product queue that's expired. There's not really a foolproof way for us to test that, so we don't take PC stuff. And then, I don't have anything against Leapfrog, but we just never really sold that. I've never had demand for that, but we do sell Sega Pico, so the Sega thing has something to do with it.
Have you ever taken in the TigerGame.com?
Yeah, we've taken a GameCons. Yeah. It's a cartridge-based system that's not entirely for 4-year-olds, so it counts. It's certainly not common, but it counts.
One more. What part of the job do you like the best where time just flies by?
Conventions are always
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah. Conventions, time flies by and we forget to eat.
We've been exhibiting at PAX since I think the second year.
Yeah.
The second year, PAX West, or it used to be called Prime. We've been there since the second year it's open. So
Which, it was still in a team. I mean, it was basically
like in a hotel.
like this. Yeah, like a hotel or it was not PAX is today. That's for sure.
But it's like such a blur. It's like an 8-hour day, but like it happens just before you know it. And all of a sudden you're done, and like your brain's scrambled eggs. It's crazy. It's
Cody will
it's a
bring
blast,
people up
though.
in his sleep.
Yeah, I'll be talking in my sleep, just like 6:59 or whatever. Oh my god.
Other than that, one of my favorite parts of the job is actually getting the catalogs from Japan and deciding what we're going to order next. We've been having a lot of success with non-gaming things that are just, like we were saying, just cute things like that little bubble tea keychain or, cute little bird keychains, just things like that. So I love being able to look through those catalogs and making the decision, okay, I think our customers are going to like this and this and this and this. And I've got a pretty good track record.
Yeah.
I think I've only really been wrong about a couple things.
You got it.
When it comes to international deals, what's the most fascinating or interesting thing? Like, do you travel there, see your products?
I wish. So with that stuff specifically, with like the catalogs and getting things like keychains and plushies, that's just digital catalogs sent to us. We have a distributor who works closely with people. They have people in Japan, and we work with them. Their offices, I think, are in California, and we work with them, and that way we're not having to deal with Japan time to be talking to them on the phone and that sort of thing. They deal with that. But the other thing I do is I import a lot of video games, and that's typically just winning auctions or finding people in Japan who are selling off their collections. And so that can be a little bit more tricky, and that is, I do have to get up at 4:30 in the morning sometimes to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's where we get most of our GameCube controllers from, by the way, because they're so popular here in the US that I usually have to find like a store in Japan that's got excess and then buy like 50 controllers from them. Anything else? How long is our count supposed to run? Even?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, any last questions before we wrap up? I'm sorry that we had a thing prepared, but sorry.
Well, you're gonna play another game.
Yes.
Someday. Eventually. I don't know. Does anyone have a backlog that's like manageable here? Anyone? Yeah, that's what I thought.
That should be up at the top, though, right? So you guys.
Maybe.
How do you guys handle collecting trends? Like some year Xbox might take off. So how do you guys handle that? We already have an inventory of the certain games, and all of a sudden, let's say, I don't know, Capcom versus SNK is for $100 on, in the market, it's wild, and you have it for $50. What do you guys just keep it that price, or you try to for the trends, or how do you do that?
Yeah, that one's tough because if we already have something priced for something in the store, I don't want to change it up.
Right.
I don't like doing that. I don't think I've ever seen something that extreme. The most recent one in memory was right after Ready Player One came out, Adventure started going for $40 online. That was a $5 game, you guys. Like that. So I actually just pulled our copies. We only had 2, but I just pulled our copies, and I was like, I don't feel right marking these up to 40, but I also can't, like in good conscience, sell them for $5 if they're worth 40. So But that almost never happens. It might be a $5, $10 difference, in which case, cool, you get $10 off retail, I'm just gonna leave it. But in general, we just kind of ride the ebbs and flows. I mean, there will be times where we have way too many Wii games and they're not selling well, but then next week or 2 weeks from now or whatever, it'll start selling well again. And you just got you can't react too quickly, I feel like. You gotta let it settle for a little bit.
Yeah, it can be such like a sudden spike, like some people were mentioning earlier, like Metal just does a video on like a certain game, the game might spike up, and we could follow that and like make a couple extra bucks, but it looks opportunistic. Really, it's not. You're just kind of going with the market, what people are asking for, but it doesn't look good to everyone who's buying from you. So we might just not necessarily take the loss, right? Because we're still
right. Because we bought it assuming that it was worth a certain price in the beginning.
But
So
that might just happen. But in the case like where Pokemon Go happened, and all of a sudden all the Pokemon games are like impossible to keep in. Now that's a game we're going to get in a lot. We kind of got to eventually ride that. We can't just stand our ground. Well, it was this price once, so we're going to stick to it forever. But,
all right, one last question, and then we'll wrap up if there are any. Unless that was the end. Okay.
We went to a game store. What was the game store that had the dollar for a game?
Bodach.
What, Bodach games?
Yeah.
They had a little special thing, a box full of crappy games, dollar games, whatever. But you could pay $1 and stick your hand in and grab a little game. It was their way of getting rid of the excess games. But it was actually really fun. We paid like $15 or something.
That's cute. We've done mystery boxes.
I was wondering if you had ways of getting rid of the games that nobody's searching for. Nobody's going to buy.
In general, so we used to have like a $1 bin and like kind of a quote unquote junk bin. We felt that it made our store look a little cheap. That was just a conclusion we arrived at. I actually think that sounds really fun. To be honest, I think that sounds cool. But for us, our clearance bin or cheap games bin, I think ended up making the store look trashier than we wanted to make it look. And so we've done mystery boxes and stuff before, but again, people know that it's going to be our crap that we can't get rid of any other way. So we feel too bad about it.
It's a tough space. Like you can't just throw like a Super Metroid in a mystery box.
Yeah.
It's like that one person knows you did that. Nobody else does. Everyone assumes it's going to be bad forever. So, yeah, we don't do those anymore. So those games, they all end up on the website. We just kind of have like a huge amount of storage in the back. And it's just like, here they are.
Or sometimes we'll put them in a big box and put it on eBay, and like I said earlier, we'll make a literal $1 off of it or whatever. But it's better than it taking up room that we don't have. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming to this. But you guys are the reason that I was able to come here again, so I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to see so many of you again.